Welcome back to Truck Tech, everyone. We're happy to have you. It is a new week, and we've got new content for you. We're excited today to have Raquel Urtasun, who is the founder and CEO of Waabi Innovation, with us. We're going to have a chance to talk to Raquel about all things artificial intelligence, one of the differentiators that Waabi is pushing in the autonomous trucking space. And we'll do that right after these headlines. Artificial intelligence aside, the bankruptcy court has now approved the sale of Proterra's battery assets. This was the $210 million deal that Volvo Group made. The offer that they made in bankruptcy for those assets, and the battery business at Proterra, called Proterra Powered, will become part of Volvo Group, and they have their own electrification area, and that'll slide in under that. Don't know whether the Proterra name will survive, but we do know that most of those employees' jobs are safe because they have very special skills, and they will be used as part of Volvo. The hearing to approve the sale of the Proterra transit bus business, though, is still pending. It's been pushed out to December 12th for a final decision. Phoenix Motor Cars, kind of a surprising bidder for that part of the business, offered $10 million for the transit business. Both of those are, of course, fire sale prices, coming out of a bankruptcy reorganization. Tough times tough financial times, I should say, in the electrification space reached north of the border this week when Lion Electric said it is laying off 150 employees across its electric bus and truck making operations. That's about 10% of the workforce. Lion's CEO said the company felt it could do the job and reach profitability faster with fewer employees. Okay, let's welcome in Raquel Urtasun. Raquel has been in the autonomous space for several years. She is the founder and CEO of Waabi Innovation. Raquel is also a full professor in the Department of Computer Science at the University of Toronto and a co-founder of the Vector Institute for AI. From 2017 to 2021, she was the chief scientist and head of R&D at Uber ATG, which is now a part of Aurora Innovation. Raquel, welcome to Truck Tech.
Thanks, Alan. A pleasure to be here today with you.
It's great to have you, and I look forward to our conversation. We're hearing so much now about AI and autonomy, trucking autonomy. We're hearing AI in everything, really, aren't we? I mean, it's a constant in the news, and your approach is a little different than some that we've talked about. I think in some ways, the differentiator between Waabi and your competitors appears to be AI. But if asked, almost everybody in the space says they use AI in simulations of their driver system. So maybe we could start just by saying, how is Waabi different?
Yeah. And I think that it's good to start maybe with an analogy, which is that today in the industry, everybody uses some form of AI, but, there is big differences in terms of what that AI is. And it's the same as saying that, not all vehicles are equal because they use an engine and wheels, right? So if we look into the particulars of the AI that we are utilizing, you can think of, the previous generation of technology, the rest of the competitors, as utilizing a very hand-engineered approach, where AI has a secondary role in a very complex system, where there is, small pockets of AI within that. And the problem of this type of approach is that it's very brittle, that has difficulties generalizing to all the situations that happen in the road. The difference with our type of AI is we use generative AI. Think of it as the ChatGPT for self-driving, right? That enables you to have a much more powerful approach that can really generalize to things it has never seen before, solve all those difficult cases, safety critical cases, etc. that might happen. So it's a very, very differentiated approach, but at the same time, much more powerful, much safer, and something that you can also do much more capital efficient. So this is as it relates to the virtual driver. And then with respect to simulation systems, so the industry uses simulation, but simulation systems are fairly primitive in the sense that they either replay reality or only test a very small part of the system, typically motion planning, by using behavioral simulations. For us, we use a simulator, which is, basically, it's the same as the real world, so that you can really test and train the entire system in simulation. The way that you will do if you were to have, many vehicles, driving in the real world, right? And that's, a big differentiator in terms of being able to expose to accidents, safety critical cases, and for the AI system to be able to learn like humans. The way that we learn is by experiencing the world, right? By driving around, we become, for example, million milers, right? Which are the most experienced drivers, and the only way that you can do this is by having a super realistic simulation where you can really expose the system to everything that might happen. And only Waabi has such a simulation system.
Yeah, and let me ask you a little bit. I wanted to ask you before we get back to it. We'll get back to simulation in just a moment. But how do you distinguish between machine learning and artificial intelligence? Are they one and the same, or is the one a more advanced version, perhaps, of machine learning?
Yeah, fantastic question. And these terms have been evolving over time as AI has become popular. A decade ago, machine learning is what today is called AI, and AI was more of kind of knowledge representation systems, more of old school AI, as we would call it today. Today, things have evolved, and oftentimes are used as synonyms: AI versus machine learning. There is no real differentiator between the two. There is many different techniques within AI. But basically all AI systems today use some form of learning from data. So they are machine learning based.
Okay, so let's get into some examples then of data that Waabi uses to train generative AI, another term that has gained a lot of attention lately. I think we have some B-roll here that shows some of what you do, but maybe you could walk us through that a little bit.
So what you're seeing here is our first generation of trucks that today, if you go to Texas, you will see them driving autonomously on public roads. And basically, what in terms of our approach uses multiple sensors for redundancy and safety. And what you will see as well is that the actual brain that drives the trucks is this foundational model, this generative AI technology, which is a single AI system that is able to perform all the tasks necessary for driving. But beyond what you will see with the large language models, this system is able to be interpretable, and it's something you can validate and verify. What you're seeing now is as well the simulation system that we have, Waabi World, where basically it's very hard for a human and for a machine to make a difference between the real world versus the simulation, right? As you see here, it has a level of fidelity that no other simulator out there has. And the way that this works is that we can create digital twins, of the world. And those digital twins are composable and modifiable, so you can create all forms of situations and things that never happened before, but potentially could happen in the world. And you can do this at scale in a way that is in closed loop, and also you generate how the sensors will have observed the scene, so that it's immersive, and you can test and train the entire system at once, not just as a piece of the puzzle. So this is kind of the next generation tool that we need really to solve self-driving at the scale and commercialize at the scale.
So does this data-intensive approach complement or ultimately replace the institutional knowledge that a human driver accumulates? So I know you've met with and have a group of drivers that advise you on things, but with this approach, with this big data approach, simulation approach, does it replace that institutional knowledge, Raquel?
Yeah, great question. So I think there is, for me, these are complementary things that you need to use in order to build this technology. On one side, you want to build technology that learns like a human, right, by experiencing the world. And that's what you can do by learning running simulation actions. At the same time, there is a great knowledge from the million milers, right? And the program that you're referring to, which we call the Driver Advisory Board, is basically bringing some of the best drivers in the industry that have 1, 2, 3 million miles in their belt, right, to actually help us build the safest, best technology by incorporating that institutional knowledge so that the system can become as good as them and even better, right? Because, unlike humans, it doesn't get distracted, it doesn't get tired, and it sees much farther than 360 degrees around, something that humans, we cannot do. Our eyes can only focus in a very, very narrow field of view, right? So from that perspective, we are bringing the best of humans and enhancing this to be a super driver as well.
Yeah. You announced, I don't know, it's been about 4 weeks or 6 weeks ago, a 10-year partnership with Uber Freight. And that suggests that the digital freight broker, which, you and I and Leo Aran all talked together, they're taking a long bet on the Waabi technology. Obviously, there's some capacity that can be used. But, Leo Aran told me that he's got 100 customers waiting right now to sign up for and to try autonomous truck routing. What is your go-to-market strategy with your driver system?
Yeah, great question. And maybe to comment a little bit on the partnership, just in case people haven't seen the announcement, right? This is the largest, most comprehensive partnership in the industry. So it's a very, very exciting 10-year commitment between the two companies, where basically we provide a turnkey solution for our customers. And this is something that we hear from everybody, which is that autonomy looks like complicated, and they want a very simple path to adopt this technology, right? So with this bundle, we provide them with everything, from terminals, maintenance, road assistance, insurance, trailer pools, the Waabi driver, the load matching, etc. So that if you're a carrier, you can basically just buy a Waabi empowered truck, right? And then everything is done for you, so that it can run 24/7 in the Uber Freight network, right? Which is a really seamless integration. And if you are a shipper, right, this provides you a view as well in terms of how this technology will affect potentially your distribution centers and your, all the things that you are doing today, so that you can take advantage of the technology to have a much more efficient supply chain. And this commitment and this partnership, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, is the system, Raquel, a standalone that can be retrofitted at an OEM factory, or is it an aftermarket installer? In other words, it's everything you talked about is great, but you've got to get your system into a tractor, right, to be able to do all these things.
Fantastic question. So today, because we are in the R&D phase, we have retrofitted trucks. However, for our commercial launch driverless, this will not be retrofitted trucks. This will be, trucks that have the Waabi driver at the factory line integrated already, right? We believe that to scale commercially and have a safe, robust approach, then you need that, strategic partnership with an OEM, and that has to be at the factory line. And there is some very exciting things on that domain, but for another day, not today. And as it relates to our business model that you asked me before, we believe on driver as a service, being very asset light. We don't want to own a very large fleet of vehicles. On the contrary, we're going to provide the technology so that carriers or private fleets can actually own those assets.
Yeah, so you're not going to really bulk up on the number of Waabi-enabled trucks. I mean, you passed over finances. I always get into that in some way in these interviews. And, you've raised over $100 million, but, you're really not raising that money so you can go buy a bunch of trucks. I think that's to continue to work on simulation and to work on the AI and things like that. So I guess I just want to understand, and for our audience to understand, when it comes time and you're working with, let's call it 4 major truck makers, will they be the ones to ultimately install this on a customer order basis, right? I mean, customers would need to come to them and say, I want the Waabi system. I want the Waabi driver in my cab. And at that point, is it something they could do at the factory level?
Yeah, exactly. So that's what you will see when we are ready to commercialize, particularly commercialize at the scale, is that that will be installed at the factory line from the OEM. And maybe one thing that is worth mentioning is that we, thanks to our flexible technology, we can be very OEM agnostic in terms of it's very simple for us to potentially have a Waabi driver solution for any of the four major OEMs, but also globally, not just from the US market. But yeah, you will see that's what you will see from Waabi, which is for us is very important safety and building the best the best and safest product, and you can only do that when you have that partnership with the OEM and you do this at the factory line. Yes, so if you are a customer, you can buy that from the OEM directly.
So we've heard that model before, and it's still out there with some of your competitors who've been at this maybe a little longer than you have. Kodiak wants to do that. I think we've had a couple that have kind of fallen by the wayside. Embark Trucks comes to mind. They had a universal interface, that was agnostic to the maker. And then, of course, it didn't work out for them. What is it that will allow the Waabi system then to become a plug and play worthy type of system? How do you get past some of the challenges that others have had in this area?
Yeah. So I will say that you need much more than a universal interface. It's not just about interfaces, right? Interface is kind of the shallow level. What you need is a technology, the virtual driver, right, that can work with different shapes of trucks, different sensor placements. And you need that to be very robust so that you don't need to build a very tailored system for every configuration. And this is what we see in what they call AV 1.0, previous generation of technology. Some of the players, the players that you're referring as the rest of the players of the industry, is that if you move a little bit the sensor configurations on the truck, nothing works, right? So that's technology that is very inflexible. Thanks to generative AI technology, you can actually be so much more flexible and have a virtual driver, like for us, that the same exact software without retraining can actually be put in different trucks. And that's something that we haven't seen from anybody else in the industry. Now, It's important also to say that
is different.
Yeah, it's very different. But it's important to say as well is that it's not because it's flexible that you don't require or you don't want to partner with the OEM. Right? It's very important, that partnership, right? Because you want to build that safe technology.
We're starting to see now advances, and I know a lot of it does fall to the tier one suppliers, but we're starting to see the integration. I was out in New Mexico a couple of weeks ago and with the folks from Torque, and they now have that integrated chassis that is so important to, for the redundancy and things like that. Obviously, the true savings for a fleet comes when that autonomous driver system can, in fact, remove the driver from the cabin. You don't need a safety driver. How far away does Waabi see that development for yourself? I mean, we've got a few pins in the calendar for next year for Aurora, which you're quite familiar with, and also for Kodiak. Torque is using 2027 right now as their date. Do you have a date for commercialization at this point?
Yeah, we definitely have a date and very clear roadmap and path to driverless. We haven't shared yet with the public into when that is. What I can share with you is that so yes, we are a new player in the sense that we've been Waabi 2.5 years. It's a 2.5 years old company, but all of us have decades of experience in self-driving, and we have new technology that what we've seen is that is 10 times faster in terms of the development than anything else that we have ever seen in any of the other competitors. So thanks to this technology, we can actually get to driverless commercial launch super, super fast. And I will leave it there. I will say that, we will
You're
get there
welcome to
super
tell
fast,
me.
much faster.
You're
But,
welcome to tell me. Go ahead.
so,
I would love for you to tell
no,
me, and then
not, not today, Alan. Very, I will be able to share more things soon. But I will say as well that the timelines for commercial launch are also tied to OEM timelines.
right.
So both things need to come together, and sometimes timelines might actually be impossible just because of the OEM in itself, right? So from that perspective, we are not going to share the date today, but rest assured that we can arrive there safely, super super fast, right? Thanks to this new technology.
Okay, so you're not going to tell me. Okay, that's fine. I'll wait.
No, sorry.
I just have a couple more. We've got a few minutes left, and I just got a couple more for you that I wanted to get into. AI is one of those things that maybe it's like cryptocurrency. People don't always understand it, and how much understanding are you finding as you explain the Waabi driver system to fleets and others who might not understand very much about this?
Yeah, great question. So I would say that they don't necessarily understand all the intricacies of the technology, but they really understand the differentiators. A lot of potential customers, etc. They have been exposed to the previous generation of AV technology, and they understand the pain points, of needing large operations, the slowness of progress, the lack of transparency. So a lot of these customers have been fairly disappointed with what they have seen so far, and they understand our value proposition clicks immediately when we show them the simulator, the power, etc. They really understand that this is the future. So it's actually a very easy kind of sell in terms of why we're doing things differently and what this technology can do. So it's been as you mentioned before with the number of customers that I guess Leo share with respect to getting on board on Waabi technology, right? We've seen tremendous uptake, and that's why we are going to increase our fleet a little bit now, because there is so much demand that we want to capture a little bit more there. But we see definitely they understand the value proposition, and for us it's very important to lead with transparency. It's also important to show our technology so that people can really get a sense of what we can do and we can't do, which has been a problem in the industry before, that lack of that transparency versus something that was more headlines than anything else.
I think transparency is obviously important, and I know you've mentioned it a couple of times, but people do tend to fear what they don't understand. And we've seen this as kind of an undercurrent in the recent upheaval at OpenAI and, maybe even, some other AI players. How do you calm any fears that might be out there on the part of fleets?
Yeah, so I think that there is more than just fleets, right? There is an important component of any new technology, which is education, and this is something that I care tremendous about. And as a professor, I guess this is what I've been doing for the last 20 years, right? Which is kind of making sure that people can understand. Obviously to a certain level of depth, right? But they can understand what this technology is. And I think it's very important for us, the EV providers, to do that. But also there is a role for regulators as well as for other institutions, like, for example, universities, etc., to be part of contributing to that education of the public in terms of what the technology is, what the technology can do, what to expect, how this technology is going to react with respect to as it's driving in the real world, etc. So that there is no fear, but there is, on the contrary, there is excitement, because there is so many benefits, of this technology, from safety to sustainability to, our supply chains are very disrupted, right? And in many ways, automation is kind of the only way for us to get us there.
Sure. I've got about 30 seconds here, so I hate to ask you for a question for 30 seconds. I'm going to do it anyway. Your name is interesting. You've explained it to me, but I'd like you to explain the Waabi name in just a few sentences to our audience, would you?
Yeah, sure.
Where it came
So in On Its Way, in On Its Way, Waabi, which is the First Nations of Canada, it means she has vision because it's a new vision of how to solve self-driving. And in Japanese, Wabi Sabi is the beauty of simplicity because we have a single AI system, much more streamlined software stack to solve this problem.
Very good. You did it in less than 30. Raquel, thank you so much for being here today. It's been great to catch up a little bit. Folks, we will be back with another show next week. Our guest will be Jim Mullen, who is the executive director of the Clean Freight Coalition, and we'll hear some of what he's up to, working with some of the bigger players in the trucking space, as we're starting to see more and more headlines around the CARB rules coming into play beginning in early 2024. You can catch all of our shows on the YouTube channel, the FreightWaves YouTube channel. We hope you'll do that. Thanks very much for being here. Have a great week.